Good morning, everyone. It's Barry's Best Honey. I'm Mike, and I'm trying to do bees. Welcome back to Southeast Louisiana. Well, I don't know if you can tell. Looks like it's dark out here. Uh-oh, my smoker. I gotta relight my smoker. I just kind of halfway lit it. And it's, I don't know, you'll maybe even hear thunder in the background. We've had rain, storms. I'm dodging storms, but I need to see what the hives in town are doing. So let me go relight this smoker and I'll get back with you and we'll see what we can find. All right, it's relit now. So the situation is still looking the same. Nothing's changed. The tallow still hasn't bloomed. That froze. The stuff that didn't freeze is blooming, but not right around here. It is May 6th, stormy, nasty, overcast, been raining, rained last night, rained this morning, gonna rain in a minute. Bees are not going to be happy. But all I'm really wanting to do is see if these bees here are doing anything. These bees were behind the ones at home. Most of these bees were not built up into the second deeps. So my goal is just to simply see what they're doing, where they're at. Some were splits, I know they're not gonna be built up, and go from there. So let's take a look and I'll go over what we're seeing here in a little bit. So if they got a super, I'm simply gonna go in them. Oh, they're gonna be upset. And see if they're doing anything. So they're doing nothing in the super, of course, which I figured. It's just crazy. In this time of year, even when the privet doesn't come in, we've never seen that I can know of nothing. It's a year like no other, guys. Nothing. There might be something in there, I don't know. Then the other question is, did they swarm? It does not look like they swarmed. Are they going to swarm? I don't know. Those bees are packed in there. Ooh, if there ever was a time they're gonna get mad, it's now when I break this brood nest. In this kind of weather. Why? Oh, it's heavy, it's full. They're putting honey in it. I'm gonna use a lot of smoke. I'm not inspecting. I can smell a little bit of privet, so there was some privet. All I see is a few old cups. We're gonna put them back together. No reason to go any further. This box has grown good. Oh, there was some lightning. I feel like they're in here working something, but maybe just the wax. Yeah, that's all they're doing is trying to clean wax. They're not even, there's zero nectar. So they filled up what they can in the top. Nothing in here. Down here, when you pop the top and see a lot of bees in an empty super up top, that usually means they're guarding against beetles. They look fine, they're not swarming. All right, what we're gonna do is just run through hives now. This was a split that made their own queen. Didn't mean for them to have to make their own queen. Worked out that way. But she started laying, so I know she's not going to be up here too big. Yep, definitely not up in the top yet. Not going to be in the top. I do want to look in here real quick and see what the bottom looks like. Oh yeah. We're in here. Let's look. I think I'm gonna get run off by the weather anyway. Where would the adventure be if we didn't at least look? I put that second box on there just as a little bit of insurance. Yep, plenty of larvae going in. I haven't been in them in a couple weeks, so I mean, she's putting brood in. She's a brand new queen. They're putting a little bit of nectar in. Look at that. This is all that just emerged, so they're growing good, but I knew they weren't gonna be a honey producer this year, so there's no sweat there. Eggs in every cell. Need to be careful. No reason to go messing them up, I suppose. I just wanted to look. Hadn't been in the bees over here in a while. Now, there is an option I could do here. I'm not going to. Oh, there's lightning. I got to go. I guess I'm gonna have to wrap this up tomorrow, I'm afraid. But the other option is take a box like this and add just a super on it, which I have done with an excluder, and let it be a single, but it's just not got enough bees yet. So we're gonna put them back together with a double and plan for them to go into a double into winter with feed, and that'll be fine. If it was further along, I knew it just didn't make a new queen, it'd be different. But 3 weeks ago, they just had a new queen. They're actually putting stuff in here, so the top box are in it, so I don't want to disturb that either, since they've begun to grow in the top. You know, it's not always just about the honey in every single colony. Sometimes I got to look and see where I'm going to go with this yard and what I'm going to do and what I have available if the flow does come. So that's kind of my thoughts. All right, hadn't started raining. Lightning's not bad yet. Let's move to the next. Nope. Not growing. This was a combine. They're queen right. I want to check the bottom. They shouldn't be swarming, but you never know. Bad genetics would have them swarming. We're going to check the bottom. Plenty of bees on the bottom. Yeah, it's about time to go. A lot of bridge comb on the bottom. I can't see because it's dark. This your normal cups here and there. No signs of actual swarming. Oh, here comes the rain, so time to go. Let me get this buttoned up. Well, folks, if you can hear me over the rain beating on the roof, I'm done for the day. I thought I could beat it. No chance of messing with the bees today. Probably not even the rest of the day. Just wanted to come over here. I'm not too concerned with swarming at this point. There's nothing coming in. I'm seeing some growth. I'm feeling a little bit more weight. That's a good thing. I'm gonna wrap this up and I'm gonna catch y'all tomorrow. Phew, man, what a storm that was. There was no beekeeping yesterday. That storm came through, blew a bunch of branches down around me. So it is the next day, it is the 7th. So I'm gonna light my smoker, I'm gonna grab a jacket, and we're gonna go look at the colonies I got here at home to see where they're at. I'm not gonna go back out where the in-town hives were until either this evening or tomorrow. So it's very strange this year, folks. Extremely strange. We've never seen no flow this time of year, ever. All right, let's get going. I'll let you know a little bit more about what my plans are. This was a late bloomer. This was a hive that was weak going into winter. It strengthened into a very, very good single. And so I put an excluder and 2 supers on it because it's drawn supers, because it's not going to do anything. And I did that with a few hives. It's not really true single brood management. You know, a lot of people talk about single brood management, but you know, there's a little bit more that goes into single brood management than just having a box that's a single with bees. It's got to be packed with bees. And what a lot of the big folks do to get them packed with bees is they let them up into the seconds, then shake them back down and put the excluder in. I did not do that. Single brood management is something that's always appealed to me, but it's a whole change of an operation in order to do it properly for me. And it's going to require a lot of storage of old deeps that are full of brood frames, meaning a lot of paramoth or something, because our wax moths are awful around here. We don't ever lose them through the whole winter. I gave them pretty drawn comb, new stuff. You can see there's a 2 on it, so it was new in 2022. This is unheard of at this time of year for us. So, what are we seeing? We're seeing nectar. Praise the Lord for that. Hadn't seen any fresh nectar in supers in a while. I got 1 out there that was doing something. There's no major flow on now. I'm not sure if that was from the privet that did bloom, the little bit that bloomed or not. But that's a positive sign. It's a sign going in the right direction. And I will space these back to 9 frame. I usually have those metal spacers in a lot of mine, but I got away from putting them in because it limits what I can do with that super. So I use these spacers now. Well, that's a positive sign to start the day. So you might say, Mike, why wouldn't you run singles then if you like it? Well, there's more involved with running singles, and you really need to equalize your singles at the coming out of winter, and that's easy to do with singles because you're not dealing with doubles. But the problem is I won't see a significant flow when it's normal. In a normal year, I should say, I won't see a significant flow until middle of April. It'd be 2 months of trying to manage single brood, right? So what I would do is I would have to go in and put a second deep on, and then I have to shake them all back down. Well, what that would do is leave me with a second deep that I would now have to store over the winter when I pull all my honey. So yeah, that would be my situations. Then I'd have to store all those brood boxes with all that brood frame, and wax balls are terrible. So for me, single brood management is, I don't know, there's more to work out to it. Just because the amount of time we have between the flows. But again, what I did when I saw some this time out that they're not going in a second deep, I could put a second deep on there and build them for winter, or I could just give them a shot at making some honey because they're packed out. So I let them pack out pretty good, and then I put the excluders in and did that. And I've done that before. I did it last year. It worked out pretty well. But I'm not a true single brood management guy, although I still would like to figure out a way to maybe do it, but the season's just so long, and the bees build so much normally, but not the case. Look at them working today. Now this is the time of year I don't dig through boxes much anymore. I did yesterday and showed you a couple, but I was just curious. I do have a few that are trying to queen up and things like that. But right now I just check for nectar and see if anything's coming in, and see if we've got you know, any conditions of swarming going on. But even now, once I know, see, if it wasn't a weird season, I would never even crack open and look for swarm cells at this time, because normally by now they've turned that corner and begin to have decided to store for winter. And when they turn that corner, it's good to go. You know, you just keep monitoring for space in my neck of the woods. But it's a weird year. Everybody else should be good. I'm going to take a look at a few of these and see what we're going to do. Let me give you a prime example of what I'm seeing. So I got this box here, double deep with 2 supers. What we see is a empty super, loaded with bees, got honey in the top. Lifted this box up, super heavy, meaning it's got brood and a lot of honey in it. But this is where they were 2 weeks ago. Same way. That's what I saw when I took the supers off last time. They're just not moving up. They're also not trying to swarm. It's almost as though they've got stored what they want stored. They're good, everybody's happy. No swarm cells, no sign of swarm cells. Population's great, but with no flow, it's nothing they can do. I mean, there's nectar out there. They're obviously working something. Maybe they'll bring some in, but there's not much. And we again don't know if the tallow's coming. So it's that's where we sit. And that's kind of what I wanted to see. Am I seeing any growth? Now, I'll see some nectar here and there like we just saw in the other one. But this one here, just a weird situation. 80% of the people at the meeting I went to the other day, I went to a meeting with Mr. Ed. He was the speaker, Shawwee's meeting. And I was also there with Joey Rawls, and we went. And 80% of those folks in that meeting are seeing the same thing. And it's definitely across the area. So let's go right next door and look what this one's got. This one is finding nectar. Where they're finding it, who knows? But that's definitely a nice little bit of nectar there, and I'm seeing it all the way through. Now here's a full frame of honey, no brood, and a super full of honey. Where did it come from? I don't know. So these are my good colonies. That's why you're seeing what you're seeing. Good queens. So that's the difference, I suppose. So I knew there was honey because I picked up this one, and it was heavy. But yeah, they're loading that with honey and loading that one with honey. And we'll space them. I love 9 frames. You can pick up a 9-frame box versus a 10-frame box, and you will see the difference, or I shouldn't say see, you'll feel the difference of a fully capped 10-frame and a fully capped 9-frame, and it's significantly different. So I do run 9-frame boxes. Here's one that I did checkerboard last week. This is the only one that had nectar in it, and this is still some of the checkerboarded frames. They're slowly putting nectar in. Again, it's a slow flow, I guess you'd say. The top box I had on here, the third one, has nothing in it. Oh, it's got some honey in it. There it is. Oh, it's got a fat bottom, that's why. But so they're filling up honey. I checkered this last week, but it looks like they've kind of finished filling it up some, but nothing spectacular, folks. But I'm gonna tell you, I'm grateful for it. Doesn't have to be spectacular. I'm extremely grateful that we're seeing honey in boxes. One thing I should say is just to be able to do this, have the health to do it, have the ability to do it, and to have the opportunity and the privilege of being able to work with God's creation this way is an awesome privilege. It's so I'm so grateful to be able to do it and have the health to do it. So saying I'm grateful to see this with honey in it, I really mean it. I'm very happy because I didn't expect to see this much. So there we go. Normally by the 7th of May, I'm already putting on 3rds and 4ths on supers, and I'm identifying supers that I'll be extracting in 2 weeks. Most years I have at the end of May pulled usually about we'll say average of 20 supers, and extracted the early honey and got them back on for the tallow flow. And so if that gives you any idea, we're just now getting some honey and some supers, which is a great thing. I'm not complaining. I praise the Lord for that. That's fine. I'm happy. But what I'm trying to say is I usually have, I'm looking at like 15 supers I'm already identifying for harvest by this time. And we're not even thinking about that at this point. Right now, we're thinking about is hopefully getting some honey. So let me show you a prime example of what I'm seeing this year as far as the splits I did in their growth. Now, these would be the ones that if I knew the tallow was coming, I would have fed them right into the deep once the privet didn't come. But again, I don't know what I'm feeding them up to, so I'll just deal with the ones I have that are strong enough to go out and forage. And again, if this one forages, I will pull these frames that you see here, okay, these new ones, and even some of these old ones, because I don't treat with harsh chemicals at all, so my frames are okay. Anything I do use can be used with supers on, so I'm not sweating that. But I don't want the old ones. I'm gonna leave them. But the other issue was I wasn't getting comb drawn, because, and normally again I have to make sure you understand my region. We get comb drawn in April without feeding. We absolutely get it drawn out within a week to 10 days. They'll draw out half a box. But one good thing is I am seeing comb drawn and filled. This is normally what I would see, say about mid-April, as the privet's coming in, and then the privet would finish them, push them on over the finish line for the tallow. And if it didn't, they would meander their way into the tallow and still be fine. But this is what I normally see, is they draw these out. This is what they start doing in April, and then they finish by about the middle of April, and then we're ready for the flow. Here we are going into May, going into the 2nd week, and this is just now what we're seeing. So that's kind of the dilemma. And is it really a dilemma? I don't guess, because if, again, we go back, I know I've said this 100 times, but that tallow, we don't know what it's going to do. If it was a normal year, shoot, I wouldn't sweat this one. I'd super it up and call it a day. But I'm not going to super this one for at least another week to 10 days, and then we'll know if any tallow comes in. They'll finish this out and push whatever they can into the supers. But normally this thing would be full of bees by now. It would already be supered. Mid-April I'd have put supers on it. The other ones would already been filling supers, and that's where we'd be. So it's not, and my bees aren't starving. Everybody is finding some nectar, so that's good. They're finding it, and that's good. And we're seeing that they're actually beginning to carefully move over here, draw out some comb slowly. But again, May, this would be done. Like that's poor compared to what we normally see. Yes, feed would have taken care of that, but you know my reasons and why I decided what I did. Here's an example, folks, of a colony I was just in it a minute ago, and I went and got some supers for it. It's a single that made a new queen off a swarm. This is the one that swarmed, and we caught the big swarm in the tree. Oh boy, and they've loaded up on bees. And there's plenty of brood in there. So what I'm going to do is give them this, and I'm only going to give them one super for now. It's going to be nice, pristine comb. No brood in it. We're going to let them go. You know, a lot of times we'll run around here and we'll see something and we'll say, oh, it's not blooming, or oh, and we got this pride in us, or this, I don't want to use it as a word arrogance, but it kind of is, that we go up, nothing's gonna happen, we don't see anything. Bees surprise us, and I want to say maybe it was Keith at Half Tracks and Honeybees said this, or somebody said it on my comment, said they'll surprise you a lot of times, and they will. You'll think you know everything and you don't see anything blooming. There's stuff blooming we don't see. There's nectar in places we don't know. But I have said that you can't ever count on what you see and think it's not going to be a good flow, or it's going to be a great flow, and it isn't. You know, we think we can see stuff, but that's just us being human. And that's what we were talking about, Mr. Ed and I were talking about. Let's give it 4 more weeks. At the time I said 5 more weeks. 5 more weeks, let's look. We'll know in 5 weeks how bad off we are. Here's a prime example of a colony that was split back in mid-March. We put a second deep on it. Now you'll say, Mike, why didn't you feed the split? Because we never usually do, and we had a ton of blackberry coming in, so we put this on. And when the freeze hit, they stopped. Should I fed them then? Yeah, possibly. These were the ones I was debating on feeding or not, hoping the privet would come in. If the privet's heavy, they'll build up. Well, it wasn't. Now they're building up. If you look here, this frame is full of eggs, and they're building. And this is a prime picture of what I usually see in April. But yet here we are working towards the middle of May here in a little while, and this is what I got. So this one will be okay to just sit and grow, and they won't swarm. Most likely what they'll do is they'll hang out, they'll go through the dirt, and they'll go into winter as a double, and hopefully they'll be strengthened and filled up. You know, after the flow they'll have filled up most of these frames, and we'll see what happens with them. And then they'll be split next year. Still out in the bee yard, and I got to thinking about feeding, and should I, would I, could I, did I, why didn't I? I think if we'd had a situation where nothing was growing and we knew we had tallow, you know, I knew the tallow was going to be exploding in my area. I see tallow blooms everywhere that are going to blossom in a week or 2 or 3 or 4. Then if we hadn't had the freeze, would have put it that way, where it knocked everything out and we had slow growth, like no privet came in, I probably would have for sure put buckets on the hives that were falling behind. The problem was we didn't know what we were getting. And so since we didn't know what we were getting, here's my whole reason. I went ahead and decided not to feed. I thought about it. I almost broke out the buckets and started to do it, and I said, no, hold off, because the privet didn't come in, guys, much at all. I said, well, let me build up. And what I've got is seconds with probably 4 frames to 5 frames of bees, and singles that don't need seconds that I told you about. I put excluders and supers on. Well, I got to thinking, if the nectar is not going to come in heavy on the tallow, if I put feed on, I'm going to blow them bees up into that second one, and they will, and they'll feed, they'll store their nectar to draw out the comb, they'll do fine, and they'll grow that second deep up. But then I'm going to have 2 full boxes of bees peeked out for nothing to come in, or not a lot to come in. And so, you know, when a lot of bees and a lot of brood is getting going, guess what you got to keep on doing? Keep on feeding. And I would have been investing a lot of sugar and time into getting them going, and then having to keep them going on through the dearth, where now if it doesn't come, then I just got to feed them during the dearth. Then fall will take care of itself, and we bulk them up. If it does come in good, guess what? They'll finish those second deeps. The frames on the outsides are brand new frames with brand new foundation, and I'll put supers on. And if we only get 1 super versus 2, or no supers and just the deep, I'll take from the deep the new frames, I'll harvest them, put drawn back in, and then I'll feed them in the dearth anyway. Then they'll still be bulked up with food for the dearth, and I'll still be able to harvest honey. So it was one of those things where, why pour all the resources and all into that just to have to feed them through the summer anyway? And if I don't feed them, we get a flow anyway. It works out. It was a tightrope to walk. So you might say, well, Mike, why didn't you just go ahead and feed them right off the bat out of spring? That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked it. Well, I didn't know we were going to have a freeze, and if I'd had it fed after the freeze, I probably would have peaked them out too early had we had a flow. So you don't know those things, because it's not like what you see with some of the commercial guys that break them down, equalize them, know their flow, and feed in a very systematic way. to build where they know they're going to build to every year with all their hives. It just doesn't work that way for mine because we normally never need feed. They build at a nice pace for me. And if I build them fast and peaked them, I'd be stuck here either chasing swarms, trying to put boxes on for nothing. It would have been the way it panned out, it wouldn't have worked out. In a regular year with decent privet coming in, sure, it might would have worked out, but I didn't see a need to feed at this point because the blackberry grew them, and at that point, you know, we were looking good. When the freeze happened, I said, well, let's wait on the privet. You know, hindsight's 20/20 if you don't know what's going to bloom, but we saw buds on the privet, so we figured we'd probably get something, and we did. That's not a lot. So it was kind of one of those gambles. Did I gamble and lose? Maybe. I really don't think so, because our strong colonies that we didn't split, you can see, have full second deeps and are actually stacking honey. So really the only ones I'm suffering on that could have used feed were the splits that never grew into the seconds, and in the end, if we don't make honey on those, we don't make honey on those. I still have to, you know, monitor and see what we have to do during the dearth. So there you go, that's some of the reasoning. But here's another one. I'm wrapping up, I'm about done. I'm seeing what I wish I would have seen, you know, 3 weeks ago, but that's okay. My bees are looking healthy. There is growth finally. I am actually seeing growth. I didn't think I was seeing growth, but I am. Here's an idea of what I'm seeing. And again, this is a split, and so, you know, I don't feed splits. This year would have been ideal to feed them, but who knows? Who knows whether they'd peaked for no flow at all. But again, I've been going over that. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. But here's what I'm seeing: another ideal queen. This is what I like to see. So I go in here and I look. And I pull up a frame full of milk brood, just larvae, all together, larvae and everything you'd love to see. Nothing but eggs on this side. You know, rainbow of honey over the top. Didn't have a super, put this deep on about 3 weeks ago because, you know, we were starting to looking like we were going to bring in some stuff, and we didn't. Filling in larvae and bee bread, and then we turn around here and that's what we got. So they're about to explode like there's going to be a flow. And you know, if that tallow comes late, hey, guess what? The stuff that froze, we're in business. We're going to have some bees, because that's emerging, and I'm starting to see them backfill now. So it didn't have supers, so that's a prime time to go ahead and put supers on. And then I haven't pulled this frame yet, but I could see it. And so since she's got a rainbow of honey, I really don't need an excluder, but look, and that rainbow of honey. A lot of times she won't cross that, and I don't want to hinder them one bit whatsoever. That's gonna be it for the day. You can see where we're at. We're kind of in a real weird situation where our buildup in our bees is late because we went through a dearth. You know, I could have fed, maybe not, who knows. And I'll say it again, just to be, you know, to be repetitive, is had the tallow not frozen, I would have seen tallow, you know, coming up as normal and no frozen and regrowth and all that. You know, seeing how slow they were going, I probably would have put some feed on some of the smaller splits, you know. I probably would have fed those. The other colonies are fine, but you know, you kind of play it by ear at the same time. And when I seen there's not a massive amount of tallow coming in, I figure why bother? And if they do put tallow in those boxes and those second deeps and build up, I'll take from there what I need, and I won't over harvest, and I'll make sure they're fed back up and everybody will be good. That's just how we'll do it. So but I'm grateful we're seeing honey in the supers. That's a good thing. We weren't seeing anything for so long and no movement, but now we're seeing growth. Going through them more than I ever would this time of the year. Usually by now we're just stacking supers, but you can see there's me, I'm sweating it a little bit, you know. And so we just keep on doing what we do. We keep raising bees, and we do the best we can. We do the best we can with what we got, and we continue to try to be good stewards of the bees, and that's what I try to be. That's what I try to do. So anyhow, it's going to be it. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you enjoyed this long and drawn out video. It's going to be it for today. I appreciate y'all's support as always. I appreciate you watching. This is Barry's Best Honey. I'm Mike, and I do bees. Y'all have a wonderful week, and may God bless you. We'll see y'all later.